Hello and welcome to Shredded Cels, episode 10. I am your host, Alex Schmitz, and with me here today is Gretchen.
Hi.
Chris.
Hey.
Jeremy.
Yo.
Marc.
Hey, guys.
And from all the way out in Pennsylvania, we have Keith, the incredible Black Captain Ironhawk Odinson Crandall.
Greetings, program.
What was that?
That is my new name.
That is his new name.
Cookie Pants Crandall can go die in a well.
I might say that just to spite you, but for now I'll just call
whatever
you
you
Keith.
say.
For now, I'll
Thanks,
Whatever you
Eric.
say, Goldilocks.
For now, I'll just say Keith.
Nice.
No, I'm the incredible Black Captain Ironhawk Odinson.
Nice. All right. Yes, we are called Shredded Cels. We are an anime podcast that is part of Tech Heads, which is part of AVW Productions, a student-run video production organization here at Ohio University. You may have heard two new voices on the podcast. For those of you who have listened to us before, we are starting our second year of the podcast. It's a new year, school year for Ohio University. And as this, Tech Heads has a bunch of new members. We've got like over 30 people now, which is a big improvement over last year.
Definitely.
It's exciting.
So, Gretchen and Chris, why don't you introduce yourselves and tell us how you got into anime, since this is an anime podcast.
Well, I'm a freshman here, and my first manga was probably Inuyasha, because I had a friend down the street who had it. And then I found it on Cartoon Network, so that's probably how I got into anime, because I recorded on VHS back in the day.
Back in the day.
Exactly, so...
Oh, VHS.
My day, we had VHS tapes, none of this CD disc crap.
You sound like Herbert the Pervert.
I'm gonna get you.
Nice.
Run away.
That's just great. How about you, Chris?
All right. My name's Chris, and I am a sophomore at OU. And I got introduced to anime. Actually, I started with Naruto after my cousin showed it to me. So it was interesting.
Not
say the
the
least.
best starting point, to be quite frank.
I don't know.
yeah.
It picked up in Shippuden.
Believe it.
Most people.
I'm gonna be Hokage.
I would say.
I just gotta kick this nasty smoking habit.
I would definitely say most people. Oh my god, I'm done. I'm not even try talking.
Oh, the loveliness of doing Skype on a podcast. Oh, yeah. Well, I haven't watched much of the Naruto anime, partly because, as Jeremy says, the voice acting, especially in the English dub, is awful.
Oh, God.
But the manga itself is pretty good, and I enjoy reading it. Still read it to this day.
I didn't like Naruto like the original, but Naruto Shippuden isn't. It's
Shippuden's
definitely
much
better. Yeah, I like it a lot
Yeah.
more.
My mom hated it when I watched the English Naruto in the living room because she could hear him yelling all the time. She'd just make fun of it.
Believe it.
Right.
Oh, my emphysema.
Precisely.
Gosh.
All right.
Kakashi Sensei.
Nice. So now we're going to go into all the animation stuff that we watched over the break. Since we're just coming back from summer break, I thought we'd do a quick little segment on what we've seen. For me personally, probably the single most important thing I watched was Cowboy Bebop, which was,
nice.
I'd seen clips of it before, and I'd spoiled the ending for myself already, but I had never actually watched the entire show, episode to episode, so I watched it primarily on Toonami. Toonami.
That's all, folks.
No, I was thinking today, Junior.
Nice. So I
We
watched
gotta
that.
get Dr. Wily.
Oh, Mega Man, we love you so. And as well as at the library, they had DVDs that I got to rent. And I have to say, 26 episode series considered to be one of the greatest of all time, and it definitely lives up to that reputation for me. It's definitely one of my favorites. Let's see, what else did I watch? I watched quite a bit of Avatar: The Last Airbender on reruns. I watched both seasons of Code Geass, enjoyed that quite a bit. Watched Trigun, a little bit of Gurren Lagann, some Paranoia Agent. Started Fairy Tail, got that from the library. I got like 20 some episodes in. It's not up there with like, One Piece as far as shonen shows go, but it's fun.
So would you put it near Bleach, Naruto?
I'd say it's below Naruto, maybe
Ouch.
maybe above
Ouch.
Bleach. Yeah, Naruto's not that bad. Come on.
Well, maybe the later stuff wasn't that bad, but the
I'm
early
offended.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a slow start, to be fair.
I'll give you that one.
Mark, what did you watch?
I watched quite a bit of Fullmetal Alchemist because
I watched that too, of course.
Yeah,
my God.
I had seen Brotherhood last year, so I didn't need a refresher on that. I refreshed myself a little bit with the older stuff, and then other than that, I always keep up with One Piece. So every week I watch the new One Piece episodes. So up to date with that. And the only other stuff I've been watching would be it's not anime, but cartoon wise, I've been watching a lot of regular show and Adventure Time.
Nice. Actually, you made me think of something. I also watched FMA over the break because I never seen the entire original anime, but I'd seen Brotherhood like a year or two ago. And I was like, okay, I don't have to watch Brotherhood. You know, I already seen it like through at least twice.
Yeah.
But I watched it through it again just because I love it so much and because it's that awesome. So that too.
The last half of Brotherhood is really, really, really good. Like I've never rewatched it all the way through twice, but I've seen like the last half of it.
Yeah.
Like another.
Well,
time.
I've got all the episodes on my iPod, and it's about like the last 20 or so. Those get played a lot more than any other combination of episodes.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Jeremy?
Why don't we come back to me?
All right, Chris.
To be honest, I haven't watched that many animes over the summer. I just kept up to date with Naruto. I watched all of the original Naruto and then switched to Shippuden and completed that, and it's still going. So that's about it. I finished. I've seen the original FMA, but I haven't seen all of Brotherhood yet, so I'm working on that.
Okay. And Gretchen, what about you?
Probably the only two I started this summer were Soul Eater and K-On!, which I got into a few weeks ago because they had it at the library. And I love that one. It's so cute.
Yeah.
Soul Eater is really good. The ending kind of bothers me a little bit, but it's,
Ooh, don't spoil it.
yeah, I'm not going to. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But the series as a whole is really good.
I like it.
I've seen stuff for K-On! I've never seen it. What?
It's kind of girly. It's like they're an all-girls band at a school.
Yeah, I've heard of that one. It sounds like it's sort of a slice of life show where
A little
it's
bit.
about a bunch of girls who form a band. But some criticisms I've heard of it is basically that nothing happens. Like all they do is talk and drink tea, and they only actually perform
they
like
really
a few
do.
times.
The main girl is like really into snacks, and that's her only motivation. So like when they want her to play guitar, they're like, "We brought snacks today."
Wow. I also forgot about that actually. Soul Eater. I watched the entirety of that. It's actually all on YouTube subbed, which is pretty awesome. I agree with you, Mark. Ending was a little bit iffy, but I enjoyed the show in general, and I especially love the first opening. That's like one of my favorite anime openings.
Oh, yeah.
Period. I really love
Oh, I
that
sang
song.
along.
Hell yeah. That's a good
I
one.
have that opening on my iPod, and I get Kenny to sing it every day. Ask him, he'll do it. Ask him, he'll do it.
Like, does he sing you to sleep?
No, no,
Wow. Okay.
no. But if I put it on, he'll do it.
So we definitely, when Kenny is back here, we need to open a podcast with him singing that.
Yes.
That'd be awesome.
Also, Paper Moon's really good.
Is that an
Is
anime?
that the ending?
No, it's an opening.
Oh, the second opening?
There's a second opening.
Oh, right.
Right. I don't like that one as much, but it's all right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Keith, what about you?
I haven't had internet all summer, so I really didn't watch anything except I finally got a chance to watch Trigun.
Oh, Trigun's awesome.
That's good.
I didn't really like it that much.
Well,
It's old. It's old, isn't it? Isn't it from like the 80s or something?
no, it's 90s. It's definitely older
Yeah,
animation. It didn't have the biggest
it just
budget.
feels so old.
For
And
sure.
and then the last 3 weeks, me and my friend Lewis have been marathoning Pokemon Season 1.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's a good
And
choice.
it's really not good, but it's decent, but it's like it's not good. Like it's not it, but it's still as amazing as we remember.
Right. It's nostalgic.
Except like Misty is just a total jerk the entire time.
That was actually like the one thing, even when I was a little kid, it's like, this is a little awkward watching this. She's abusive. Like, this isn't even...
You know, she
This
is.
is uncomfortable. I mean, why? Like, I was an 11-year-old. I'm like, that's not right. I mean, dear God, I grew up on the Looney Tunes, and that's like, wow.
I never
Nice.
finished the whole Pokemon series. I just watched the
That's because
movies.
it's still going.
Nobody has finished the
Yeah.
whole thing.
I wanna go back
meant,
and
like,
watch it
Just
so
kept
bad.
going with it.
Yeah. Well,
Just watch up through Johto and then just stop.
Johto's still
If
good.
that-
yeah. Johto's still good.
No, Johto's great, and then just stop.
Let's see. Now, Keith, I can respect the fact that you might not like Trigon, even though I love it a lot. But you have to at least agree that the opening is awesome.
Which opening? The one that I skipped a lot?
Yeah, the one with the awesome guitar riff.
No, I like the guitar riff. It's just the show itself I didn't like that much.
All right, well, we will
But
cover.
like, I mean, like I can see how it's good and how it's like revered as one of the best, or at least one of the better older ones. But like, I just didn't like it.
To each their own.
Yes, we will talk
Yeah.
about it another time, perhaps. Jeremy, it's come back to you.
All right. This summer, I didn't watch quite as much as I wanted to. I got a job. But I started watching Dead Man Wonderland on Toonami. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It wasn't the main character's voice kind of made me want to peel my own ears off, but
Yeah.
let's not get into that.
I saw the first episode when Toonami first came back, and I thought it was interesting. The animation was cool. It's kind of an interesting premise. But then, like, at the end, like, that weird girl shows up and, like, to protect him or whatever.
It
and
all
was-
makes sense in the end.
it was
Well,
weird.
sort
I
of.
don't know.
It sort of makes sense in the end. But anyway, because it's already over because there's only like
12 episodes, right?
Something like that. It's not that many. What else? Oh, I decided to inflict mental torture on myself. I started watching Bleach over the summer. Just when it
Oh,
started.
filler, good.
Oh yeah,
So
all
long.
that filler.
Oh, everyone loves the filler.
I was bored.
Hey, can I borrow some of your filler and use it to fix my walls? Because I really need some filler for my walls.
Nice.
Yeah. No,
Filler.
Oh my god.
Why were you watching a filler arc rather than, like, one of the good arcs?
Just seeing how much torture I can take. Before I
What? How is
Just,
that
like,
logical?
Punishing yourself.
Exactly.
Sounds like it.
There
You know what you should do next time? Stick your fingers in a blender. I hear that hurts less.
but I need my fingers.
You don't need
Well-
your mind.
No, I could just be another mindless worker drone like everyone else.
There you go. All right, so thanks for talking about everyone's anime over the summer. Now we're going to get into the meat of the show for this week, which we decided way back in whatever it was, late
was
May,
May.
early June.
It was May.
Late May.
knows?
When we decided to do Fullmetal Alchemist, the original anime series, and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood for our two animes over the summer to come back to Ohio University and be able to talk about both of them. And so, just so your listeners know, two things. One, there will be spoilers in this show for both series, so be aware of that. And number two, both me, Mark, and Jeremy have seen both series. Whereas, Chris, you said you'd seen all of FMA, not as much of Brotherhood. Some.
No.
And you'd seen...
I've seen one episode of Brotherhood.
but you've read the manga.
I have, and I know a lot of the original show, so
Okay.
Okay. So we're all pretty well versed in it.
What
So
about Keith?
Oh, yeah. I don't even know. Did you finish Brotherhood?
I finished Brotherhood 15 minutes before I signed on Skype. As a disclaimer, though, I did skip through a lot of the last 15 to 12. Like, I watched all of the last 4 or 5. I skipped
see.
through parts of the
Well,
last couple.
Wait, are you saying you skipped 12 to 15 episodes?
No, I'm saying, like, I watched bits and chunks. Like, I read a synopsis of all of them. Like, I'm good to go.
No, to be fair, Mark,
Right.
apparently, like Keith said, he didn't have internet, so it was only recently that he was able to watch it all. And, like,
That's
last
true.
time I talked to you, like, 2 days ago, and you said you were in episode 39.
Yeah.
So the fact that you
Yeah,
got to
I didn't realize that there was 64. It's like, oh yeah, it's Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. It's totally like a condensed version, closer to the
wow.
closer to the manga of the show. No one told me that it was 64 episodes and not just 39.
Well-
I was kind of upset.
Well, we'll allow you, for the sake of this podcast, we'll allow you to skip those episodes. But after this is over, you have to go back and rewatch them.
Oh no, I'm going to.
Because especially some of those episodes near the end,
It's really
it's
good.
really good.
Oh, the end episodes are awesome. The first 30 suck.
Well, we will get into that. First, I figured we should talk about the one that came first, which was the original Fullmetal Alchemist, which was a anime created by Studio Bones aired in 2003, 2004 in Japan, was released in the US in 2004, it was a big sort of renaissance, for anime, which I think at the time was like
high quality in my anime. It's more common than you think.
I know it was extremely popular here in the U.S. and in Japan as well, but it really got the American anime industry going again, and it's that was a big deal at the time. So, did anybody watch it when it was like originally airing?
Yeah, that's how I watched it.
Really? Mm-hmm. Interesting. And you too, Jeremy? Mm-hmm. Nice. So, what did you think of it at the time?
Do you want to go, Mark, or should I?
You can go.
All right. Well, I was blown away by it. It was a beautiful. It was very well done. It was a very interesting show. I had never read the manga up to that point. They did a very good job of explaining everything. Now that I've rewatched it 2 or 3 times now, I've got a few interesting complaints about it, especially since I've seen Brotherhood now. I think but I'll get into that later. Go ahead, Mark.
When I saw it, I liked it for what it was, but then when it got to the later episodes, correct me if I'm wrong, but once you get to a certain point, it turns almost grim dark.
It definitely gets darker.
It just gets a lot darker, and I, as a kid, I don't know how old I was, but I wasn't, I was probably 13 or something, around that age, and I just wasn't interested in a lot of like the really, really dark turn it took, because Fullmetal Alchemist had humor in it, right. but the fact that there was just like one point where it just all of a sudden everything just like went down the drain, I was kind of like, oh, this is not what I wanted to watch. Right.
Don't get me wrong. I enjoy a dark story, but it's just kind of there's a difference between a dark turn and then a dark 180. This is like I got whiplash.
It just like you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, hi. How's it going?
Oh, you were standing behind me the whole time. Oh.
Okay, then.
I feel like even the beginning was kind of dark.
Oh, the whole show was dark, but then it got like...
Yeah, well, to be fair, like, even in the manga, like, especially early on, like, the stuff with Nina and Shao Tucker, like, that's really dark stuff for, shonen action anime.
That's crazy.
I think the thing that was, though, in those last 10 episodes, it just got really, really unpleasant because they just threw way too much stuff on you at once. Like the really dark themes of the story. They should have if they knew it was going to be shorter, I feel like they should have maybe spread it out a little bit more. Instead of just kind of like causing like a 30-car pileup of everything.
I haven't seen Brotherhood, but I really like the original. From what I saw, you guys said it was dark. I started with Naruto and the whole Sasuke arc that got darker and darker, and then Shippuden switches and it's even further.
See, I would less call the Sasuke arc dark as I just would a lot of complaining.
I don't know.
Not necessarily.
I kind of quit out on Naruto kind of early though because I just got sick of seeing Sasuke's face.
Yeah, I'll give
I just kind of wanted to punch him in the face every time he came up.
I wouldn't call his arc dark necessarily, but there certainly are things that happen to him, especially later on, where he becomes this very hateful.
I just felt like I was
Keith,
used to the dark
shoving
plot,
your sandwich
so
in front of the camera.
Oh,
that's your hamster, isn't it?
I was pretty used to
chinchilla.
The chinchilla. Yes, and thank you.
That portal thing's trying to escape from him right now. Be free, little rodent. Be free.
Wow. This is great for an audio podcast right now. Also, thank you for...
Its eyes are bugging out.
Leon.
Yes.
Its eyes are bugging out of its skull right now, audience. It looks horrified.
Nice.
It's my little baby chinchilla.
And thank you for coming back to us, Keith. I think when you took off your headphones, we heard some static there for a bit.
Oh yeah, probably.
I
was changing. Sorry, listeners. I needed to change my clothing.
Thank you for informing us. Let's continue.
We needed to know that. But yeah, my personal relation, or actually I should ask Keith first. Keith, have you seen any of the original FMA? Heard about it? Anything?
I watched a couple episodes just to say that I did watch a couple, and I mean, like, it seemed the couple that I saw were good. They were funnier, I guess. Yeah, stuff.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, for me personally, like when I originally told my story of how I, got into anime, this was actually the original FMA was the show that did it because I'd seen, like Pokemon and DBZ and Sailor Moon before, but I never really thought of those as anime. But then when my sister's friend brought home Fullmetal Alchemist, the original, I saw the first, 3 or 4 episodes of that, and I was like you said, Jeremy, it's like actual quality, actual emotional investment in interesting characters in a cool fantasy world, And I didn't really follow up on it too much until I saw Brotherhood. But it definitely got me interested in anime, sort of seeing that it's more than just stupid action shows or girly, Sailor Moon magical girl shows.
The plot is so good. I feel like everything comes together.
It really, yeah. It's
it comes together really well. There's an early episode. It might actually be the first episode. Oh God, where does it take place?
Lior?
It might be Lior.
For the original or
The
Brotherhood?
original. I think it might be the first Lior episode where they first introduced Rose.
Yeah.
Yep, that would be there.
Oh God, I hate that episode.
But that's the first episode.
No. The rest of that wasn't the first episode I saw though. It was 2 or 3 episodes after that one.
Interesting.
The problem was with that episode, I don't know what I think it might have been the 3D effect that really kind of threw me off at first, because I had seen the rest of the show before I had seen that episode, because I had really enjoyed the show. It's that one episode though. It's like, what
are you doing?
What 3D effect? Do you
the god? I mean the statue that they animate.
Oh, okay.
No, but even beyond that though, the whole episode, I feel it doesn't. The rest of the show it's very high quality. I feel like it's very well written. That one episode, it just doesn't feel like it's as good as the other episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like everyone just feels more wooden. The villain seems really.
Don't you think that's how it's supposed to be?
Stupid.
Wasn't that when they first walk in there?
No. I mean, even the Elric brothers seemed ridiculously wooden.
Oh, okay.
The villain was stupid.
Oh, you mean the priest guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's the first guy they fight. He's not supposed to be like a.
No. I don't mean I don't mean stupid. I just mean the whole kind of concept was kind of iffy, and the whole parrot homunculus thing. That why?
Oh yeah, that.
Do you
thing.
know what I'm
his
talking about?
pet.
Yeah, that was a little weird, but I do really like the first episode just for how it establishes Ed's character. When he reads off the list of ingredients, what makes up a human body, and they're talking about
That was cool.
God and sacrifice and his whole and the revelation that he's got this metal arm and metal leg, and that Al's hollow and all this stuff.
Yeah.
The other thing I liked was just action wise, I really liked the part where he turned his cane into a machine gun. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
that was cool, but there was I don't know. It just the whole episode seemed off.
It just bothered you.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. No, what really kind of threw me for a loop wasn't until the end of the series though.
Yeah.
Dante.
Yes, that is one of my bigger problems with the show is that Dante, the main villain, is
A wiener.
Well, I mean, in theory, it's not a bad idea. She's this old woman who created the homunculi, who's the master of Izumi, who's the master of Ed. So obviously a very powerful alchemist, has apparently been alive for a long time, But I knew as soon as, part of it was because I knew that Dante was the main villain when going into FMA, but I knew that when she was, quote unquote, dead, that she had somehow possessed the Lyra girl, who was her servant, and used her body instead. And then she got eaten by gluttony. Exactly. The problem is she has one little alchemy fight with Hohenheim, and then we hear about how she's controls the homunculi. We saw what she did to Greed with his human skull and things. How she has control over them and how she's manipulated events, and caused all these wars and all this stuff to happen. But you never really get the sense that she's that powerful, that influential. And then in the end, she doesn't even really matter. She gets taken out like a punk.
Oh, yeah.
In the last episode.
Yeah. That's why I said she's a giant wiener.
Yeah. My sort of thoughts on the original anime are that it does a good job, because something that people criticize Brotherhood for a lot is that it rushes through those early episodes because it knows that the original had already covered them, and because that, although FMA takes it in a different order than the manga did, the stuff with Shao Tucker and Nina takes place years in the past when Ed was before he became a state alchemist, when he was still trying to learn and become a state alchemist. Whereas in the manga and in Brotherhood, it happens after that, like after they go to Lior. And
I'm
everything.
going to sound incredibly stupid here, but that's where the father turns his daughter and combines it with the
Yep.
dog.
Yep.
Oh, it's so
Okay.
sad.
Yeah. The thing is, though,
That was the creepiest looking thing ever.
that whole conversation. Then started talking. I'm like, okay, then.
Yeah, if they didn't talk, it would still be creepy, but I wouldn't be as bothered.
When it started
It was
talking,
scary.
and then
Yeah.
then Scar shows up and then shows what a good guy he is by
That was-
blowing it up.
Yeah,
with
that
his
was
hands.
really sad.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I kind of like Scar for doing that, but I'm like, dude, overkill.
Yeah.
Seriously.
No, I would agree with that, and I do like how FMA it gives 2 episodes to that, so lets it develop a bit more. They give like a full episode dedicated just to like them in the past with their mom, whereas in Brotherhood, it's sort of a thing where in the I believe it's the 2nd episode they show it and they say, oh yeah, we had our mom and we did alchemy and she liked it, but then she died, and they move on from that pretty quickly. But then throughout the rest of the series they show little smaller flashbacks, in other episodes of them interacting with their mother, which helps make it work. But one thing you mentioned, Scar. I really love Scar in Brotherhood and in the manga, but in FMA he's kind of cool, but
He has no personality.
well, there's that. But the problem is his powers don't really make as much sense. Like there's that episode where he goes into Ed and Al's room and he finds a bunch of papers they had lying around, and then he does something and a bunch of the letters come off the pages and swirl in a sphere, and suddenly he learns that they went to the 5th laboratory. It's that is completely different from how alchemy is supposed to work, based on
There is a phrase for that. New powers as the plot demands. But no, that was kind of.
I agree.
I mean, Scar's powers were very well defined in Brotherhood, which I really appreciated. I mean, don't get me wrong, he wasn't. I think Scar might have actually been the character I had an even bigger problem with than Dante in the original Fullmetal Alchemist, just because it's it's a big scary brown guy. There's a lot of really unfortunate places you could go with that. That's all there is to him. That's
right. And then
why.
and then there's the whole plot thread where his arm has a philosopher's stone in it, because it was his brother's arm who had the tattoos all over his body, and then he loses both of his arms, then uses his own body, to create the big
explosion.
Yeah, the big what do you want to call it? Transmutation circle in Lior, later on to kill all the soldiers, which is kind of weird. I didn't quite feel his motivation for doing that, I guess.
No,
I don't know.
This is again. I do love Fullmetal Alchemist. I know I've been kind of knocking it since we started talking about it. I love it, but there's just some things that. Another thing I don't particularly like is the fact they made Envy, I guess, more of a main enemy in that series.
You don't like that fact?
No, I didn't like Envy very much.
Well,
I didn't think he was as interesting as some of the other homunculus.
Envy doesn't really show up very much until the very end.
That's what I mean.
Right. Yeah, they don't give him much personality, certainly.
Aside
He's
from, I'm going to talk like this the whole time and be androgynous.
Right. All we know about him is that he was created by Hohenheim, and that's really it. That's another thing. Hohenheim is one of my favorite characters in Brotherhood, but in the original,
he shows up for what, 15 minutes?
Well, yeah, he's
including that 2-minute cameo at the end.
He's not a very important character, and he used to have this relationship with Dante, and apparently he's been sacrificing lives in order to keep himself alive for all this time, transferring his soul into different bodies. It's what are you doing?
So it's not that. So he's a lich.
I don't know.
He's some sort of really powerful undead monstrosity.
I guess. Do they ever even explain, in Brotherhood, they sort of give a reason for why he left Ed and Al and his mother. I don't think they ever explained that in the original, why he...
No, he just kind of wandered off. See you later, I'll never be back.
Bye, guys. Good luck growing up. Puberty. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that.
In one of the earlier ones of just Fullmetal Alchemist, they mentioned that he just leaves purely for science, and then they cut it off after that.
That's wow. But I mean, I've never read the manga, but from what I've been told, Brotherhood follows the manga very closely.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
That completely conflicts with this character, doesn't it?
I suppose.
I was under the impression that the reason that he left his family in originally in the manga is because the horror of what he had done was finally starting to come back against him.
In Brotherhood?
Yeah,
that's
what I was led to believe.
What I got from it was that was he left them to go search the world and sort of try to figure out how to counteract Father's plan. You know, he went around and put those pieces of his soul into the 6 places across the country or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Sounds like Harry Potter.
A little bit.
I wouldn't have thought of that if you didn't say that. Yeah, I guess that's kind of true.
That's the first time I had remembered that.
Yeah. I guess there was something I wanted to touch on about the original before we move on to Brotherhood.
Mustang's a weenie too.
Well, I see. There's certain things I like in the manga. You know, the bit where he's talking about how he wants to give all the female officers, short skirts or whatever, and he talks about how he loves dogs, and that whole little sequence. That's like a joke side story in the manga. And I'm glad that they included that in the original because it helps give him some character, that he doesn't get in Brotherhood. But beyond that, I would agree he's not nearly as cool as he is in.
Again, though, it's like he doesn't seem very powerful. Like in Fullmetal Alchemist, he just kind of seems like he's there.
He has to have the gloves in order to do something.
No, but even beyond that, though, he just kind of first off, he just kind of just barely wins the fight against Ed in that whole training match thing.
Yeah, he beats him basically because Ed didn't know he had a second glove.
Yeah,
right.
I like Hughes.
Well, Hughes was everyone loves
I think
Hughes.
he's so funny.
My favorite character in all the series though is Armstrong.
Armstrong.
Oh my god, Armstrong is awesome.
Armstrong is great.
Armstrong makes sparkly men my hero.
Yeah, Armstrong and Hughes are my favorite. Now, the thing is that does Hughes die the same way in both series?
Yes, more or less. He gets taken out pretty fast.
But it's for a different reason. I think in FMA, it's because he figures out something about how the homunculi are, in the government or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas in
Brotherhood,
it's for that reason, and because he realizes that what they want to do with the nationwide transmutation circle.
Does anyone else find it funny though how fast they figure out that the Führer is was it Fury?
Oh, you
Wrath.
mean Wrath?
Wrath.
Sorry, I thought that was.
That made me sad. I really liked him too.
That was hilarious how fast they figured it out, and he's just kind of like, "Oh, okay."
Well,
yeah,
what are you gonna do about it?
He didn't care.
What are you gonna do about it?
Well,
Hey guys, how's it going?
Yeah. By the way, I'm a homunculus. See you later.
The difficult thing I had when watching Brotherhood is because I knew Hughes would die, and rewatching Brotherhood, or not rewatching, technically it's rewatching because how the earlier episodes are kind of the same. I was like, oh, Hughes, I remember now, why you're so awesome. I really don't want you to die. Please don't die. And I just thought, maybe they'll change it. Maybe he won't die. And then I just kept watching, and of course, I got to that episode where he dies, and I was just like, no, please no.
And of course, since there's more episodes with Hughes in them now, so you get really attached to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god! Well, when they do the stuff at his funeral and the little girl's crying, it's like,
I love his
Arakawa.
daughter.
Why?
She's adorable.
He's so cute about it too.
Yes. By the
He
way,
just fawns over all the photos and stuff.
Kenny was the one that brought me to Fullmetal Alchemist, and so when I saw Hughes, I instantly liked Hughes. But then
he's just a likable character.
Of course, he's funny. When he died, I actually told Kenny, I was like, I don't want to watch this anymore. No more. He's like, no, you gotta keep going now.
Now that I think about it, they actually do a little bit of a better job in Brotherhood, even because the very first episode of Brotherhood is one that the anime Studio Bones, they did the second Brotherhood, the second anime as well. They made up that first episode, and remember that's the whole thing where Ed and Al go to live with Hughes. And so you get more connections with him there, than you do in the normal manga or in the original FMA. So there's even more of a connection. There were two other things I want to say about the original, and then we'll move on to Brotherhood. It's all right, Mark. These two are important. One thing I actually liked quite a bit about the original is how it gave the homunculi, the thing with the homunculi being, the bodies of humans who had human transmutation performed on them. It's a little wanky how they deal with the how that works with alchemy and all that, but I'll let it slide because what they do with lust, like how she remembers, her past life and this connection to Scar's brother and all this stuff. I actually think that's very interesting. It makes the homunculi more human.
Yeah.
Lust was a very interesting character, and I definitely appreciate in Fullmetal Alchemist how much more she was fleshed out. On the other hand, you have what's his face? I think is it Fear? Is it Wrath?
Wrath.
Yeah. On the other hand,
Who's
you have
the little kid.
Yeah.
In
Then you have
the
Wrath
FA.
on the other hand. Whereas Lust is very flushed out, she's a very interesting character, and you kind of feel bad when Scar dies for her because she feels the pain as well. Well, okay, he takes the bullet for her. Excuse me.
Yeah, I guess she does, and then I think she ends up being killed by another homunculus.
But then you have Wrath. Whiny Wrath.
So what? The opposite of Wrath in
Brotherhood.
Yeah, I couldn't stand Wrath. Every time he was on screen, I just kind of wanted to slap his little face.
Well, and this is just something that really frustrated me because how alchemy works in Brotherhood is that you have this thing called the Gate of Truth, the big door that gives you access, to this alchemical power. Whereas apparently in the original, as long as you have the arm of an alchemist, you can do alchemy, even though homunculi aren't supposed to be able to do alchemy.
Yeah, see, that brings up an interesting question. If all you need is a body part of an alchemist to do alchemy, this is going to sound horrible, and I'm sorry. There's a good chance I'm going to offend someone. Why not tear an alchemist up into pieces, replace the body part of loyal soldiers with parts of the alchemist, and from one alchemist you can make 4 super soldier alchemists.
That's actually a horrific but makes sense idea based on this logic that the anime has created.
I'm sorry if I'm upsetting someone.
I'm just imagining you in that universe now, but you're just like a mad doctor.
I like the evil laugh.
That was good.
And the other thing I feel like we have to talk about this with the original is just the way it ends. Because as this series progresses, like we've talked about, it gets darker and darker. One thing I really hate is how they make the people who killed in Brotherhood, the people who killed Winry's parents, it turns out to be Scar. And they do interesting things with that. Whereas in FMA, it's Mustang apparently, and he's like, he feels really bad about it. He's like, after he does it, he's about to commit suicide, but Marco convinces him not to. But it just seems so out of character for him, being this noble guy, and it just makes me kind of hate him and make him less likable than he is in Brotherhood, like we've already talked about.
I mean, I think the biggest problem, I think, though, with Fullmetal Alchemist, the original series, it has less to do with all these little flaws that we point. Okay, they might be more major flaws, but I think the biggest flaw is it's just a tone thing. Don't get me wrong. The whole series is in of itself very dark, but it's just like everyone is unpleasantly unhappy. It's not a bright, happy world, but oh my god, everyone has a permanent scowl plastered on their face.
Like how
it's not the grim, dark 41st century versus millennium.
Well, like Ed gets really, more like pragmatic, and he doesn't trust Al as much, and Al doesn't trust him. Like they do things separately from each other because they don't want the other to like get involved, to get hurt, and things like this. And they have lots of more disagreements, and arguments than they do in the original. When I say original, I mean manga.
It's just really weird.
Yeah, and then we get to the final 2 episodes where it turns out that how they're doing alchemy, the energy they're getting from that is like the souls of the dead people from our world, like 1945, our world, and then...
Well, they're about to get a huge power boost. I'm going to hell.
Oh my god.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about World War II, you freak.
Okay.
Wow. He went there. But,
What the hell, guys? Why did you think I was talking about that?
Okay, yeah.
Seriously. What is wrong with you guys?
Technically, it's part of World War II.
It is.
That wasn't what I was talking about. God damn it.
So there's the Fullmetal Alchemist is tied to our actual world?
Yeah, basically, at the very end, Ed dies... So Al uses the Philosopher's Stone that's inside of himself to bring Ed back, and in doing so, like kills himself.
He hits the reset switch.
And then Ed's like, oh, wow, well, now I'm all alone and I feel bad, so I'm going to do the same thing. Except this time Al comes back to the world in his body, but Ed doesn't die. He just gets thrown into the other world, our world.
Which, by the way, is in black and white, apparently. Apparently color wasn't invented until the 60s.
It's
No,
not
there's
in black
color.
and white.
There's definitely no.
black
There's
and white.
No.
it's harder to tell because it's at night for most of it.
Yeah,
but it's definitely not
it's
black
muted
and white.
colors, but it's not black
By
and
the
white.
way, it's not 45. He ends up, I want to say it's like around 38, actually.
It's before the war, for
Yeah.
sure.
So
But just the whole thing with that, like, I always just sort of think of it like it's almost like a joke match. Like, oh no, Ed died here. I'm gonna resurrect him. Oh wait, now Al died to resurrect me. I'm gonna go resurrect him.
Romeo and
back and forth, sort of thing.
and as the laws of physics weep.
Yes, exactly. And the problem is that earlier on, this is a part that's in both the original and Brotherhood. There's that whole sequence where Scar, shatters Ed's arm as well as Al's body, and Ed's like, okay, if you kill me, will you spare my brother? And he's about to do it, and then Mustang and the crew show up and save the day. And they sort of and then Ed and Al have a little bit of an argument and basically say, we will stick together, we won't let one of us die, for the other. And then they just completely go against that, And there's actually a quote I found in the original manga, because I actually bought the final volume of the manga just because it's so awesome. Because at the end of Brotherhood, this is a big spoiler, just to let you all know. Al's body is now stuck at the Gate of Truth. And Ed's trying to figure out how to bring him back. And the manga, there's a line that I believe Mustang says when he, Hawkeye asks him, "Oh, why doesn't he just use his own life, to bring Al back?" And Mustang says, he's already experienced the terror and despair of being left alone. He would never subject Alphonse to that. So he's basically saying he would never subject that sort of despair onto Alphonse by sacrificing himself to bring Al back, which is exactly what they do in the original series, and that just makes me really mad.
How dare you point out plot holes and logical inconsistencies?
Once again, that's the manga.
Hyper condensed space.
Did the manga
I hate you, Keith.
It's that joke.
That's a reference to Gurren Lagann, by the way.
Yes.
But did the manga finish after the original Fullmetal Alchemist finished?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so then could that be a poke? Could that be like a kind of?
I don't think so, because
Stab at them?
The original author of the manga is named Himuro Arakawa. She's actually a woman, and she apparently, because basically the original anime creators reached the point where they caught up with the manga and had a choice whether they do like filler and slow down the show significantly to try to keep with the manga, as it went on, because the manga didn't finish until around the time Brotherhood came out, like 2009, 2010. But instead, the Studio Bones decided to sort of go off on their own direction. And apparently Arakawa said it was very different from what she imagined, but that she improved of it and thought it was a good, representation of her characters or whatever. So she enjoyed the original anime.
Yeah, I still feel like the last episode was really weak.
You created it.
Right.
I know I've said this in the past, but I feel like those last two episodes are astoundingly weak compared to the rest of the series.
Yeah, I mean, we've ragged on it a lot, but I love it. It still is a great series that everyone should watch. I'm only ragging on it quite a bit because 5 years later you have this other series come out called Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, which came out around 2009, and it's like it would be really hard for me to choose. If you asked me what my favorite anime was, I'd say, Bebop, or, Fullmetal Alchemist, or Gurren Lagann, Bakano, Fully Cooley Paranoia Agent. But if you pointed a gun to my head and said I could only choose one, I'd probably say Brotherhood. I love this show. Just how epic in scope it is, how beautiful the animation is, the fight scenes, the characters, the comedy, how it blends everything together. I mean, it really just is very close to being perfection.
I think the thing that most impressed me was how it was able to combine comedy and action, but then also keep that dark tone, because it's not always dark. Not everyone has that permanent grimace that you were talking about earlier, Jeremy.
In Brotherhood?
Yeah, in Brotherhood.
In Brotherhood,
Right.
yeah. So people there's like, even though really crappy stuff happens and people die, they still find little ways to put in comedy so that it's not always just
And most of the time it's animating Edward in just like ridiculous fashions.
Yeah.
One of the best ones I remember seeing. Do you guys ever notice how they'll like change, like they like will physically just change the way he looks?
Yeah, they'll make him chibi.
Yeah, the chibi stuff. Like, I think one of my favorite moments of that is he's in Briggs in the snow mountains, and Winry's there, and she's like repairing his automail, and she brings up a Hawkeye for some reason, and he thinks back to when he talked to her last, and she asked the question like, "Oh, you love Winry, don't you, Ed?" And he thinks back to that, and he just goes all chibi and like bounces around the room and starts like bleeding and is like, like spouting off elements, the periodic table of elements, to like compensate for the fact he's so nervous. It's like one of the funniest moments in the show.
Not to mention every time that Winry has to repair his automail and she beats the living daylight out of him.
Yeah.
Just basically what I was trying to say is that it's just not as dark, which I like.
Right. Well, what I think about
even the animation style isn't as dark. They use actually a brighter color palette, which I think actually helps.
Like what I think you're right, Mark, because Brotherhood has moments, where it's quite dark, like for example when the nationwide human transmutation circle goes off, like that's about as dark as you can get.
The dog girl, once again.
Right, the dog girl, when Hughes dies, when Buccaneer dies, and
when
Old
Green
Man
died,
Fu.
actually.
Some of the homunculus battles are pretty messed up.
Right, exactly.
Well, no.
We are spoiling things, just to be aware.
No,
But
I did
Oh my god.
So it has moments, of darkness. but unlike FMA, it's not like 20 episodes of just pure darkness and everyone's sort of grim. It just has like maybe one episode or one moment, that's particularly dark, and then it'll get a bit more not necessarily lighthearted, but just not dark. Somewhere in the middle.
You guys keep saying everything's dark. I don't really have anything to compare it to, so to me, I think it's just normal. It's really dark. I thought it was normal.
I'm not gonna lie. When I rewatched FMA over the summer, I just kept for those of you, I just kept thinking of Warhammer 40K because I just expected someone to run out screaming "Blood for the Blood God." It's really grimdark.
If you're watching a show, and at points in the original FMA, there is comedy.
Yeah.
But if you try and throw in comedy in a show where almost everyone has a permanent grimace, it doesn't work. Because basically what happens is like someone dies, and later in the show everyone's all sad, and then they like crack a quick joke, and then everyone's all sad again, and I'm like, that doesn't happen. Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Gretchen, you said you'd seen a little bit, or you'd read the manga. So
yeah, I read it like a while ago though, so it's
a little fuzzy.
Well, yeah.
But did you enjoy it though?
Yeah, it was really good.
Keith, what's going on?
What?
We heard a little scratching
I'm
noise.
totally not screwing with my chinchillas.
Okay.
Of course not. Because I actually read the manga before I watched Brotherhood as
Same
well. And I really loved the manga as well. Just her whole style and writing and everything. But seeing it animated was also pretty glorious.
Yeah, I kind of want to read it again before I watch Brotherhood some more.
I have not seen all of the Fullmetal Alchemist manga. I started reading where when I started watching Brotherhood, it was not finished. So I watched all of Brotherhood, and then where it stopped, I started reading from there and read the rest of the manga all the way to the end. So when the anime finished, I had already known what was going to happen, but the way they animated everything, and it's really, really nice.
Yeah.
I could not have asked for a better representation of how the manga ended.
Actually, if you read the manga, like there's some differences in just little details. Like in the manga at the very end, like there's a whole sequence where Ed's on the roof, like pounding into the door or pounding the roof. I guess that happens in Brotherhood
that
too.
does happen in Brotherhood. I remember that.
That's right. I don't know. And then Al comes up on the roof and they're like talking about going off on their journey. And there's a whole bit where the Chimera are talking about like the connection between the body, the mind, and the soul, because they're trying to figure out how they can get themselves back to normal.
Yeah, that was in Brotherhood as well, because when they were in a coffee shop.
Well,
and
they're in a coffee shop, but they're not talking about that specifically.
Well, okay, but they were talking about something, because Al comes over and he talks to them, and they're like, "Yeah, we want to go with you because we want to learn
get
more
our bodies
about."
back.
Yeah,
you're right. They just don't talk about it specifically.
Speaking of which, those are actually two of my favorite characters in the Brotherhood, the two chimeras.
Right. Well, when you say two chimeras, which two? Because there are 4 in total.
The ones that specifically follow around Ed and Al a lot.
I forget what I
can't think of their names right
wasn't one like a lion?
Yeah, we have one's a lion, one's like a gorilla, one was a like spiny guy.
It was those two.
And one was a guy who like part frog. He's like a big yellow guy.
Yeah.
Spat.
Those
sort of thing.
those two.
Yeah. Well, what I find really interesting, one of the things I really like about Brotherhood is that there are a ton of characters throughout the whole show,
which is why we unfortunately have to refer to most of them as
that guy,
because
exactly.
We can't remember their names except for like the most awesome characters in the show, like Armstrong.
Exactly. But so obviously there are some characters that don't like come back or whatever, or don't have a significance to the main plot. But pretty much every character gets a moment of awesomeness for themselves. Like Winry, is never like involved in any battles, but she does some pretty awesome things, like when she delivers the baby or when she, repairs their alchemy armor, or like the lion guy. If you recall, he like goes and beats up on Pride and then gets injured and then ends up killing Kimberly during his fight with Al when he's got Pride next to him. And how Yoki, who's sort of been this joke character throughout the whole show, he leads them through the mines, and then later on he's driving the car when they have to get away from Pride.
I actually liked him once he became more than just like a little side joke character,
right? Or like Dr. Marco when he has that awesome moment when he like kills Envy, using his alchemy powers.
One of the worst, like not worst moments, but it just I had to like stop for a second when Scar had to mess up his face in order to make it so that they could, get away, like disguise him basically. So he just destroys the flesh on his face, and then later, like you see him again, and his face is all distorted because the skin is starting to grow back, and it's just he looks grotesque.
Well, I think that was part of it, and part of it was also because like he did awful things to his people, and he was pissed off. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't want to kill him.
Well,
but
that's not why Scar did it though.
To an extent, I guess that's just me. Keith, I'd be interested to hear your opinion because obviously you just finished watching the show. So what's your reaction to it?
Overall, I think I liked it.
You think?
And I watched the first 20 episodes in like 2 days, didn't watch it for a week, and then just finished the last 20 in like a day and a half. And I gotta say, I really like Mustang, because he seems like he's never used in the show, but he seems like the most powerful character there.
Well,
which I think is really funny.
We joked about that on a podcast last year about like why is it the Mustang and Armstrong show? Because Mustang's the most powerful character and Armstrong is like the most popular
and strongest.
He's the man that made it okay to be Bichon.
They're great.
Exactly.
Because he's not really Bichon, and he just happens to have the sparkles fall. I like the fact that he communicates through his mustache. That's the best part of him.
That is great.
For the people that
the whole time.
For the people that did finish Brotherhood, I know in the other FMA, one of my favorite, I think there's like 2 characters with a suit of armor that Ed and Al fight in the lab.
Yeah, in the 5th laboratory.
Or something.
And he actually becomes kind of a little
one
character.
He's actually talking about the one where it's one suit of armor is actually 2 people.
Yeah.
Well, there's that guy.
And then there's the other guy,
and he's
the butcher.
He gets killed.
Oh, I do remember
the butcher guy actually comes back and is involved with a plan where they try to catch one of the homunculi and is sort of involved in the whole plot that leads to Lust getting killed.
Oh, okay.
And Gluttony getting captured.
Yeah, those I love those fights because the whole time they're talking to each other.
Right.
Also, speaking of which, though, speaking of the homunculus, Greed is awesome in Brotherhood.
Greed is my favorite.
No, I like Wrath better simply for his badassery and his fighting skills.
Oh, hey, guess what? I'm Wrath. You can't do a thing about it.
But as far as being like the most likable, most interesting homunculus, it's definitely Greed. You know, because he's a very redeemable character in the end.
Yeah, Greed has to be my favorite, but then there's also... This is weird because a lot of people don't like him, but I just really like the way they used him is Sloth.
Really?
Sloth was my favorite because I was not expecting, like, he spoke very slowly, but then his main combat move was the fact that he could move almost at the speed of light. Like, he just dash, and you couldn't even see him. And I wasn't expecting because it's like, oh, he's Sloth. He's got to be slow. And it just turns out that the reason why he's usually slow is because he's just really, really lazy and just doesn't like working. And then when he dies, he just says, "Oh, at least I don't have to work anymore." And then he dies.
Right.
Like I don't know why, but that was so awesome.
I agree. Like, we talked about how in FMA, you know, the homunculi get a bit more interesting and more backgrounds because of the whole they have a human past sort of thing. And I would say most of the homunculi in the original show maybe have some more depth than the ones in Brotherhood, except for Greed. Greed has a lot, but like each character has you know, smaller things. You know, like what you said there, like how he dies. You know, and his whole what does he say? Living is a bother, you know, sort of thing.
That's exactly what it was.
I just thought of something.
Yeah.
Did they ever even introduce Sloth in FMA? I don't remember them ever actually introducing him.
Yeah, well, they show him before the final battle. They show him digging the tunnels, you know, because he digs the big tunnel around the nation. But like, I really love how, you know, Lust dies at the very end. Like, you know, we don't really know much about her personally, and then obviously she's evil because she, you know, killed all these. Yes, and hot.
Like really hot.
Thank you, Keith.
She killed all these people. She paralyzed Havoc, you know, but she dies and she's like,
she's hot.
But she's hot.
Thank you, Keith.
But she says like,
You're welcome. I'm glad I'm here to contribute.
That's right. You know, she says,
Can I?
What, Keith?
Nothing. Go on. I have something to say in a minute, though. Once you're done.
All right. Like how at the very end she dies, like, you know, when she's looking at Mustang, she's like, oh, I love seeing, you know, a man with that sort of determination. I can't wait to see until that determination turns into, like, you know, pure rage or whatever. And she's hinting at when he finds the person who killed Hughes, Envy, which happens obviously later on.
And he flips his...
Yes, he flips his gourd, you might say.
That's not the word I was going for.
I know what you mean. Like, that's another great moment. Like, you know, Envy, you know, it talks about, you sort of get this revelation that the reason he's actually envious of humans, even though he always looks down on them throughout the rest of the show. Mm-hmm. You know, how at the very end, like Wrath, when he dies, you know, he talks about how he has, you know, Lanfan asks him, oh, do you have any last words? And he's like, no, nothing. And she's like, oh, don't you even care about your wife? You know, because he said before that, like, she was the one thing that he chose. You know, like, his whole life was sort of preset for him. But he chose his wife. And he sort of goes on this short little talk about how, like, you know, that they are so close that there were no need for words between them. That's what it is to be the wife of a king. And that's sort of resonates with her, obviously, because she's eventually going to marry Ling, you know, who's going to become emperor and all that. So just the way Arakawa obviously, like, incorporates, you know, since they're named on the 7 deadly sins, she usually incorporates part of that into their personality in some form or another, which I always think is very interesting. Keith, what were you going to say?
I thought the homunculi were, like, really underused at the beginning. It's like you saw them and, like, you just really wanted to know more. And then you just got them all shoved in your face in the last, like, 20 episodes.
Well, it comes to a climax.
I really liked them.
No, I like them a lot, too. And you get a good bit of them. Like, how about when they fight, you know, Gluttony, Wrath, and Lust, you know, during that bit when they're trying to capture them. You know, they're not nearly as present as they are at the very end, but I think they're there.
What about the fight between the Armstrongs and Sloth?
Right, but
that's what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
That was the part I really wanted to get to. What is Izumi's husband's name?
Oh, Sid, I think.
Because when he comes in and, like, Armstrong gets his arm popped back into place,
I totally forgot
and then
about
they just
that.
show up and do the, like, whole manly, like, muscle thing, that is by far the funniest part of the show to me.
That was a great moment. Now, Keith, I was interested in something you said earlier in the podcast because you said like that you didn't like the first 30 episodes. So what was it like? Were they just slow? What didn't you like about the early part?
Yeah, it was. I don't know what it took me until like today to figure out what my problem with this was. And like, don't get me wrong, it's good. Like, it's a good series, but like, I think my problem is that with the exception of like the homunculi when they've gone like berserk, and when the alchemists are using the philosopher's stone, nothing impresses me. It's not until like Hohenheim comes out and like the Alphonse gets his hands on the philosopher's stone that like it really starts to get cool to me.
Well, so are you more in it for like the action? Because obviously near the end, like what you're talking about, that's the best action stuff. Earlier on, they're not fighting maybe as tough of opponents, but there's usually a fair bit of action going on, like all the fight with Greed in Dublin, and then all the story elements. You know, they're sort of pushing you along, like when Gluttony eats them, you know, and they have to find their way out, and they meet Father for the first time and have that whole confrontation, and Ling turns into the new Greed and all that stuff. You know, you didn't think any of that was interesting?
No, it's not that it's not interesting. It's just
He's in it for the fist fights.
kind of, yeah. I'm in it to see, like, they set this universe down. It's like, oh, this is alchemy, and we can do this with it. And like, all I wanted for like the first 30 episodes, first 20 especially, is for them to just explore that, like explore what exactly you can do with this awesome power. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until the end where it's like, oh, I have a philosopher's stone, and I made a flash bomb, and then I made a decoy, and then blah blah blah, that it got really cool to me.
It's not so much that you wanted them to explore the power; you just wanted them to blow each other up with it.
I want everybody to. I just want constant fighting. I mean, let's face it.
I think you'd appreciate Fist of the North Star.
No, that's understandable, Keith.
Yeah, you really like Gurren Lagann, didn't you?
Oh my god, that was great.
Exactly.
No, but yeah, I think
that might be why.
Go ahead and go look up the old '80s Fist of the North Star. Actually, no, here's better yet. Turn off the volume on this, but just type in Kenshiro versus Tank into YouTube.
Possibly my favorite moment though had to be when Pride eats Gluttony.
Really? You why is that your favorite?
The reason, like, okay, for one, just I don't know if irony is the word, but the irony of Gluttony getting eaten by Pride. And Gluttony is kind of like a little kid.
No, that's right, irony.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, but Gluttony's kind of like a little kid. Like,
he's innocent compared to the others.
Yeah, he's a little innocent. He just eats because he likes eating. And so when Pride starts like devouring him, he's like genuinely scared. Like, it was, to me, it like freaked me out, but like when it was done, like then Pride like had his powers, and Pride could eat other stuff like Gluttony did. I was just kind of like, oh wow, that's really really cool, and that's freaky, but that's awesome, you know?
Right.
Haha, you're really unsettling.
Yeah, that's how I felt, because I'm like, oh, not only can you have those creepy eyes and spikes like follow people, but you can also eat people.
Right. Well, right. Well, like you said, he sort of established to be the creepiest homunculus. You know, he's the most powerful, probably. You know, and then I also love like when he eats Kimberly, and then how that comes back into play at the very end.
Yeah.
When he's trying to take over Ed's body, and Kimberly's like, "I won't let you." You know, you say you have this pride as a homunculus, but you want to inhabit the body of a human. You know, you don't have any pride. You know, and then Ed comes in and kicks his ass, obviously. Mm-hmm. You know, so just how he comes back into the show and all that, like, it's so awesome.
It's like what you said earlier. I love how all the homunculus have that, all the homunculi have their certain sin embedded into their personality, even if it is kind of like a contradictory thing later.
Right. And one other thing I quite liked about Brotherhood compared to, like, FMA is how... in Brotherhood, all of the heroes are noble to a certain extent. You know, like out of all of the characters, like Al is like the most pure. He wouldn't hurt anybody. He doesn't really fight dirty or anything. Ed's a bit more. He'll fight dirty. He can be a bit mean sometimes, but he won't kill anyone. He's not a real jerk. Things like that. Mustang can be a jerk and he can be a manipulator and he'll kill people. He doesn't have any hesitation with doing that, but he cares deeply for his men and he'll protect them no matter what the cost. And you've got like General Armstrong, not awesome Armstrong, Lady Armstrong, who's supposed to be this cold, hard general, who's really hard and doesn't, is always marching forward, looking for getting the promotion and everything. But yet, at the end of the day, we find out she sort of does these back through ways to help out her men, like how the clock was broken, when they went into the tunnel and had to come back, and she's like, oh, well, we were gone longer than we had to be. Oh, well, this clock didn't say so, and things like that. So all of the characters sort of vary in their morality spectrum, if you will. But at the end of the day, they're all good people at the core, whereas I think in the original, you don't get that as much.
They all just seem kind of grouchy.
Right.
Even Al, he just seems kind of like, the whole time.
I had my body lost.
Hey, you know what? No. He's had to deal with that for a couple of years now. You'd think he would have learned how to deal with it.
I'd like to see
I'm
you
just kidding.
deal with that.
That's partly how it sounded like. Oh, he's whining because, ooh, I lost my body. Ooh, big
That,
deal.
No big deal.
No, that wasn't.
You don't need that.
Wasn't
Honestly,
it,
I would love to see Jeremy deal with that.
Yeah, here's the thing though. I would probably lose it for a few months, but I think. How long was the time skip from when they lost their bodies?
You got to keep in mind that you're not as young as he is.
I don't know, 3 years.
No, here's the other thing though. It was less it wasn't really directed at anyone. It just seemed like they really kind of all had kind of flat personalities.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and one character that, like I was talking about before, that I didn't really like in FMA that I really love in Brotherhood is Hohenheim. Their father, just because like his whole past. When they go, that's one of my favorite episodes is his flashback and what they do with him and father. The homunculus in the flask.
The dwarf in the jar.
Right, the dwarf in the jar.
That was so cool.
Exactly, like, and how they give, father a personality, like how he just wanted to be out of the flask. That was his goal. And then he goes a little megalomaniac and is trying to, kill 50 million people, so he can become a god and all this.
Oh, no. You know what? Sometimes to become a god, you gotta kick a few old ladies down the stairs.
Nice.
Did they ever say how old Hohenheim actually is?
I think he's a couple hundred years old. I think.
Yeah.
I think that was pretty much said once or twice.
Like Amestris as a country is a few hundred years old, I think, and they were there. Like father founded it, I believe, is sort of implied. So yeah, they're pretty old.
So like 500 years or so, give or take ish.
Yeah, something like that.
But here's the thing though, father is much older than Dwarf in the Jar, I guess, is much older than Hohenheim is.
But I thought it was created with his blood sample.
Yeah, no.
Well, I suppose if you think about if he had like an eternity of life beyond the door of truth or whatever, then yes, he's older. But he's actually younger than him because he was born when Hohenheim was like 17 or whatever.
I always got the impression. I was just kind of thinking like in the broad sense of things, he's pretty much an eternal being.
Oh, right. I mean, they both are. And I just love Hohenheim, how he, not only is he a badass, he goes around and is able to do all this no hands transmutation. He's got sort of power equal to Father's before he goes all crazy. And just his whole backstory and when he finally reunites with Ed and Al, their relationship, he sort of fixes it because obviously it was damaged. But by the end of it, they care for him. And then the way he passes away at the very end, it's all very well executed.
Yep.
And just one more moment I wanted to talk about from Brotherhood before we wrap this up is what is probably like I said, the last 4 episodes or so are just filled with so many epic moments. Like when Father gets away with his plan, and does the nationwide transmutation circle, and then when Hohenheim. Oh, Keith, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
We can hear the sound coming out of your computer, so I was hearing my own voice.
Oh,
Sorry.
how does it make you feel?
I sound so stupid. But just, all the epic things that happened there. But out of all of them, my favorite, like one of my favorites is obviously when Greed sacrifices himself and then Ed comes in and, punches him through the stomach and kills him and all that. And the way it ends, I think it really ends perfectly with how Winry and Ed confess their love for each other, before he goes off and all that.
This is just a quick question. This is mostly for Mark and Alex and I guess Keith. When the dwarf, I guess the no longer dwarf in the jar, pointed to the moon, and that's where he said the gate was located. Did anyone else just kind of think that's no moon?
I did not think of that. No.
I didn't either.
Gosh. That was my first thought when he pointed to the moon. I'm like, that's no moon.
Yeah. Fun fact: if you go on like the Fullmetal Alchemist Wikipedia page, you can read a whole bunch of stuff about like how that all makes sense, like how he was opening the door of the Earth as well as the door of the moon, as well as the sun, which was behind the moon because of the eclipse, and how that, the whole like sun and the moon together makes a perfect being, that the brothers were looking at, and sort of explains how that works. It's all a little confusing.
On Wikipedia?
Yeah, on the Fullmetal Alchemist.
On Wikipedia.
Oh, he said the Fullmetal Alchemist wiki.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's a bit more reliable, but
Yeah, okay, my bad.
As reliable as any Wikipedia can get.
pretty much. But by far, like one of my favorite moments in all of anime period is when after Father like blows everything up during the final battle, and Ed has the pole stuck in his arm and he can't move, and Al is looking over at him, and he decides to sacrifice his own body to give Ed his arm back. And then how, Ed just rips it out and beats the crap out of Father, and using his full alchemy. Like, not only is it epic action, but it's just such an emotional moment, too, because this is sort of the culmination of, their journey. Now Ed has to find a way to bring Al's body back, because he's stuck beyond the door, but he's found his body at the very least. Mm-hmm. Just how they deal with all that. So, yeah, overall opinions, it seems like FMA is very good. You should still go watch it. Definitely has some problems. Brotherhood also has its own faults. Starts a little slow, has some less actiony moments in the first half, but especially in the second half, it just gets to some of the best anime you'll ever find. I didn't mention it, but the music in both shows are really good. The animation in both are really good, especially Brotherhood, since it's 5 years newer. Like, awesome action scenes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like crystal clear and great.
Also, if I had to subtitle both of these movies, I mean not the movies, both of these shows for FMA, I would definitely subtitle it Fullmetal Alchemist. We solved the problem, but we actually created a new one at the same time. And then for Brotherhood, it'd be well, actually, we kind of made the problem worse.
Well, how would you say they made the problem worse?
Well, the whole plot behind the Fullmetal Alchemist is that Ed and Al are trying to find Al's body.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now Ed's even lost Al. So it's kind of like it's kind of like Dude, Where's My Car, except with a person.
Well, what frustrates some people about the end of Brotherhood, even though I love it, is how essentially Ed could have gotten Al's body back in episode 1. Like if he had known that all he had to do was to human transmutate himself and go to the truth and say, "Take my door and give me my brother back." There you go. It's over.
Yeah, but then you don't have a series.
Well, of course you don't.
Well,
well, then how could they have saved the world? Come on, man.
I know the whole idea is that his journey, sort of taught him all these lessons, and he learned that they were always searching for the answer through alchemy, through the Philosopher's Stone, but it turns out alchemy, he doesn't need it. That's not nearly as important as just sort of sacrificing part of himself to get his brother back.
Mm-hmm. Well, because before then he was only thinking physically. He wasn't thinking of all the other type of ways.
Okay, so what did you guys think? You like the manga a lot. You've seen a few episodes of Brotherhood. What are your overall thoughts?
Being that I've completed Fullmetal Alchemist, and I'm starting through Brotherhood, I have to say that Fullmetal Alchemist so far is better in my sense I thought the characters were more serious. But then when I watched Brotherhood, like Mustang seemed to be joking around when he probably really shouldn't have been. You know, he tried to attack Scar when it was raining. Wasn't really thinking all of his
That was in the
thoughts
original
through.
as well. But
Huh?
That was in the
That scene
original
was
as
in the
well.
original as well.
Right, but I don't think it was. I don't remember it being so.
Comedic.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely play it more for laughs in Brotherhood in general, like with most of the comedic moments.
Right.
What about you, Gretchen?
I just love the writing in the original because I think everything, like each episode, just comes together so well, and then like I don't know, I love it.
Nice. And Keith?
I definitely liked it. Words. Hi, I'm Keith. Nice to meet you. I don't know how to
Yes.
speak.
Hey, Keith.
I'm gonna go back and rewatch some of the Brotherhood episodes. And I'm definitely gonna go watch
The
Excuse me.
original.
the original series again, or for the first time.
All right. Well,
I don't know if I actually answered that question. My bad.
that's all right. Fun fact for all of you out there, both Brotherhood and FMA are on YouTube and Hulu subbed. You can watch all the episodes for free there.
If you just go to Funimation.com, they're all there too.
There you go. So, quick discussion about what we want to talk about for next time. What I've had the theory of doing is doing a podcast on the episodes of Legend of Korra that we didn't get to cover last time. I believe the last one we did was episode 7, so 8 through 12 we can cover in one podcast.
Oh wow, we didn't do any
Oh,
of that.
yes.
But
Nope, those were all after we left.
Oh, okay. Well
but,
then I would.
but
totally
Alex,
do
do you hear that? Be very quiet for a second. Can you hear it whispering? It says, another bad movie night, another bad movie night, another bad movie night.
We need to do that sometime soon. Yes.
I feel like that should be our next
Yes.
video. It's just something horrendous.
When you
I-
say video, you mean podcast?
No, I mean, for our next podcast, we should watch a movie that's just horrendous.
I see. Well, I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, what he's talking about is last year we watched this awful animated anime movie called Sword for Truth, and we just watched it for fun, just to laugh at it, and then ranted about it on the podcast, basically. So,
I love bad movies, so it sounds awesome.
so do you want to do that, or have you guys seen Legend of Korra?
Oh, I love Korra.
Yeah. I
Okay.
completed it.
I say that we do Korra for the next episode, and then for the next episode after that, we pick a movie, and then we'll reveal it on the next podcast, so that other people, if they want to
Yeah.
watch with us,
Yeah.
they
Just,
can.
just remember, my one rule for a bad movie is it has to be bad enough that I can enjoy it, but not so bad that I feel like I have to destroy the disc as a gift to mankind.
Funny bad is always good.
Yes.
Just sacrifice it.
funny bad rather than just bad.
Yeah.
I have
Save
to
the rest
destroy
of
this
us.
to save everyone else.
Right. So Keith, are you up for Korra?
Do I need to rewatch it again? Where did you guys leave off?
Like I said, episode 7 was the last one we watched. Have you seen all the episodes?
Yeah, I watched it all.
Okay, well, if you've seen them all, then you can discuss it. You might want to rewatch some if you need a refresher.
I'll probably just rewatch them for fun. But yeah,
Yeah, me
it's
too.
Between
yeah.
between 8
No,
and 12.
no, you can't have a good enough reason to rewatch it. Like, you should just rewatch it.
Exactly. All right, so it sounds like
I'm sorry, I'm tired and I'm not speaking well.
that's okay. I think we've all had our little mess ups during this podcast. First one of the year. It's going to get better, I promise. So, thank you
It's
for
all
calling
downhill. It's all down here from here.
I agree with you.
me. Words. Oh, who needs
Blah, blah,
them?
blah, blah, blah.
Oh my god, we made it a whole episode and no one swore.
No.
Nice. All right. So if you enjoyed this podcast, you can email us at techheads@avwproductions.com. You can follow us on Twitter at techheadsou. We're obviously on iTunes. You can download this podcast there. Rate us, subscribe to us, give us some good reviews. Bad if you want to, you know.
Actually, you know what? Just
be-
go with the bad review because I don't like sugarcoating. Just go ahead, please. Please slam us, slam me in particular.
Don't listen to Jeremy.
No.
Just
No.
don't listen to him.
I'd rather
Just
see negative.
disregard
I'd rather
him.
see negative constructive criticism than flowery praise.
Okay.
He's insane. He's
agree.
clearly lost his mind.
Make your comments honest, but we prefer them positive. That's all I'm gonna say.
No, they prefer the positive. The truth must be revealed.
No. No truth.
And you can also visit our blog on avwproductions.com. We also do a bi-weekly video show called Bits and Bytes. It's on YouTube. We're AVW Media. You should Subscribe to us on there.
And you can see me as your host.
Oh, yes. Marc Goldsmith, beard included.
Eventually,
Oh my god.
eventually his face
Everyone
is just
needs
going
to watch this.
Eventually, his face is just going to start replacing all the logos for Athens Video Works. Just Mark's face.
Who needs the logo? All right.
Hey, he can be a mask. It can be a mascot.
I will be the mascot.
There you go.
No, you're here.
All right, so Gretchen and Chris, thank you very much for joining us on this first episode. I hope you
It
enjoyed
was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye now.
So for this episode 10 of Shredded Cels on Fullmetal Alchemist and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, I'm your host Alex Schmitz, and we will see you guys later.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye now.
I just love Totodile so much.
This product is copyright AVW Productions 2012.